In this video, I show you how to perform a DIY mini split install in a spray foam attic to control high humidity and moisture problems. You will also learn how to monitor humidity, install a mini split smart controller, and integrate both of these into Alexa for automation and voice control. I recently hired a contractor to install open cell spray foam on the roof line of my vented attic. I spent hours of research learning about spray foam attic moisture problems, which eventually lead to mold problems. Before I experienced any issues, I needed to find a solution to monitor and control relative humidity in my spray foam attic. After exploring many options, a mini split was the best option for my particular scenario because it conditions the air as well as removes the moisture. The MRCOOL DIY 36K mini split arrived in 3 boxes and very well packaged. The first box contained the outside condenser unit. In the second box was the inside air handler. The accessories were in the third box and included a mounting plate, wall sleeve insert, rubber pads, clip anchor, the mounting plate fixing screw, drain joint, drain hose, neoprene putty, air freshening filter, and the mini split smart controller. So all you have to do to get this mounting plate off is remove this one screw right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this into the main house along with my leveler and find a place to mount it before I bring the inside unit all the way over there. Since I'm not mounting the air handler to a flat wall, I'm using a scrap piece of 1x12 to secure the mounting bracket to. I also did this for the mini split I installed in my workshop a while back. Next, I used 3 2x4s to build a bracket in order to support the mini split. Be sure to visit my blog for more details on how I did this. So these 4 screws here are going to go into the brick. These 4 screws are going to fasten the outside condenser on top of the mounting brackets. So there are 2 holes in the front and rear of the outside condenser unit at 26.5 inches apart, which are used to fasten it to the mounting bracket. All right, so here's the main unit for my home for the common areas. I talked to my electrician and he's going to run another junction box or an electrical box right here on side of this one. I use my 4-foot leveler to mark a straight line roughly 6 inches to the left of my garage window. I marked the holes and used a masonry bit to drill a hole the same length as the bolt. Then I filled the hole with silicone caulk to seal it up. I placed the anchor in the hole and gently tapped it with my hammer until it was flush with the brick. Then I placed the bracket over the hole and tightened the bolt by hand. Using my drill with the correct size socket, I tightened the bolt. After one side was secured to the brick, I used my tape measure and leveler to measure 26.5 inches to the left. The previous mounting bracket on the mini split that I installed in my workshop had a horizontal bar, which eliminated the need for the 26.5 inch measurement. My friend and his son helped me lift the condenser unit on the wall mounting bracket. Then I used the provided nuts and bolts to secure everything in place. Using my drill and 3.5 inch hole saw bit, I removed a section of soffit for the line set to pass through. Then I removed a section of the open cell spray foam at the attic eaves in order for the line set to pass through. The spray foam is much easier to put back in place and seal if removed in large sections. I pulled the line set through the soffit just enough to where the refrigerant lines would connect to the outside condenser unit. The refrigerant line slack remained in the attic. I put the large pieces of open cell spray foam back into the hole and sealed it with canned spray foam. Before I connected the refrigerant lines, I connected the electrical lines from the inside air handler to the outside condenser unit. The refrigerant connections are fairly straightforward, but it is still very important to follow the directions. First, I hand tightened the first few threads for the top valve and the bottom valve. I used 2 open-ended wrenches to tighten the bottom connector, then the top connector. After the top and bottom were secured, I checked for leaks according to the instructions. I used the provided 19mm open-ended spanner to open the valves. I unscrewed the cover and inserted the wrench into the valve, then turned the wrench counterclockwise until it fully opened. I repeated the same procedure on the other valve. Right, you want to turn it counterclockwise as far as it'll go. Per the instructions, I checked for leaks again and reinstalled the cover. So here's my drain line here, comes down, and instead of running it all the way outside, which as you can see, I did it first, the end of that is actually the old drain line. So I cut that, and I purchased this PVC to flex tube fitting right here, and this is the drain line for my existing AC unit. The PVC to flex tube fitting worked great. I only had 2 more things to do to the drain line. One is to add tie straps to the places where the flex tube was joined together, and secondly, to install tube insulation to prevent any condensation from forming. So here is the sensor that I am using in my attic. I actually have 2 of these, one that you see here, which is near the attic floor, and I have another one near the attic roof. So basically the sensor takes periodic snapshots of the temperature and relative humidity and logs this to my smart home controller. I set up alarms in my smart home controller to notify me via text message if the relative humidity exceeds 65% or if the temperature exceeds 78 degrees in my attic. So the airflow in my attic works like this. It comes out of the mini split where it hits a first attic fan. This fan pushes it to the other end of the attic where it is then picked up by a second attic fan. The second attic fan blows it behind the mini split, which is the top of my garage, and then the process starts over. Some folks have told me that attic fans simply blow the moist air around in your attic. However, the fans only turn on when the mini split turns on. And secondly, I've noticed a 20% quicker reduction in humidity within my attic when the fans are on versus when they're not on. You can see this is my mini split garage floor, and this is the entrance to my attic from my garage. So I built a little styrofoam box sealed with HVAC tape all the way around it. The styrofoam box essentially is just to keep as much of the moisture and the warm air in my garage to try to contain it and not it all just leak up. As you can see, I still have a lot of the old insulation on the garage floor here. All the way around. I didn't pull that out yet intentionally because I wanted to keep this space insulated. Here's the garage. I have a return right here, 2 supply lines, one right here, the other right there. The garage door gets really hot, so that heat comes in the garage and goes up into my attic, into my spray foam attic. I need to insulate the garage with that. Not my dog, the garage door insulation kit that I bought a year and a half ago, and it's just sitting right there doing nothing. So I need to install that pretty soon.
You can install the garage door stuff, girl.
All right, so now we're at the back of my house. Here's my AC unit here that's for the downstairs common areas. Right here, it is a Ream. The mini split is right here. So this unit, smaller of the two, is for the upstairs loft. And my dog's getting lizards. And the other unit right over there is for all of the bedrooms. That's a 4-ton unit. That must be like a 2.5 or 1.5, I don't know. So the MRCOOL DIY 36K ductless mini split now comes with a Wi-Fi enabled smart controller. The new smart controller integrates with Amazon Alexa, Google Home, or the SmartHVAC app. Using my iPhone, I downloaded the Cielo Smart Home app from the App Store. First, I opened the app and chose the Control Your Air Conditioners from Anywhere option. Then I created a username and password, and I also kept this very handy because it is needed when integrating the unit with Amazon Alexa or Google Home. Then I clicked Sign Up after entering the required information. Once complete, the app took a few minutes to create my account. It prompted me to join the Wi-Fi network. Essentially, this step configures the smart controller to join my home Wi-Fi network. Once it joined my Wi-Fi network, I named my device Attic Mini Split and chose Fahrenheit as the type of air conditioner. In order to control the unit, I simply clicked on the unit and turned the unit on and set my desired temperature on the cool setting. Also, I verified the settings for fan speed and blower position. As I mentioned previously, the HVAC smart controller integrates with Amazon Alexa. Since I have 2 Echo Dots in my home, I chose this option. First, I opened the Alexa app on my smartphone. I already had it installed in order to initially set up my Echo Dots. Next, I clicked the option menu at the top left of the screen and selected Skills and Games. In the search box, I typed Cielo and chose Cielo Smart Home. Then I enabled the Cielo Smart Home app. I entered my login credentials I created during the last step in the space provided. Alexa informed me I successfully integrated my DIY mini split. Per the recommendation of Alexa, I clicked Discover Devices. After roughly 20 seconds, Alexa discovered my mini split smart controller. It automatically categorized the controller as a thermostat. I completed the integration between Alexa and my mini split controller. At the end, Alexa provided me with sample voice commands to try out. So now for the final results. One thing to keep in mind is I used the data from the humidity sensor near the roof of my attic. The temperature and the relative humidity are the highest at this sensor. Also, the information you see represents 1 hour and 50 minutes from 1 p.m. to 2:50 p.m. on April 21st, 2019. I chose this time period as this is a very warm and humid part of the day. Ideally, I want to maintain an air temperature of 75 degrees or below. In addition, I want to keep the relative humidity at 65% or below. I should have probably mentioned this before, but the blue represents the attic temperature and the orange bars represent the relative humidity. In addition, this graph is measuring the attic temperature without the mini split or the fans running. The relative humidity rises above my threshold of 65% and the air temperature rises above 75 degrees, which makes this environment ideal for moisture and mold growth. The following day, I collected the same data at the same time period. However, the mini split was set to cool and the attic fans were on while the mini split was running. It took about 20 minutes for the relative humidity to begin to drop. The relative humidity continued to drop for about 40 minutes from 1:20 p.m. to 2 p.m. As expected, the temperature dropped to 75 degrees from 78 degrees and normalized. The mini split was set to cool to 75 degrees, which is why that was expected. The MRCOOL DIY mini split continues to run even after it reaches the desired temperature. I believe this is the case for all mini splits, but I'm not exactly sure. I have to presume this fact explains why the humidity continued to drop in my attic even after the mini split reached 75 degrees at 2:20 p.m. Essentially, the mini split worked as intended by reducing relative humidity from 67% to 50% during the 1 hour and 50-minute time interval. The temperature dropped 3 degrees while continuing to dehumidify my attic. As time goes on, I'll continue to fine-tune the settings until I continuously maintain the ideal air temperature and relative humidity. Luckily, the Smart Controller and the Alexa app, along with the integration of the two, make it easy to tweak settings on the fly to maintain the proper temperature and relative humidity in my attic. All right, folks, that's a wrap for this project. I appreciate you sticking around to the end. I'm going to link up my other DIY mini split installation videos in the video description, so be sure to check those out. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that bell so that you'll get notified as soon as I release a new video.